The red warning lights blinked steadily. Across the darkness of space, each beacon sent out the same message in hundreds of alien languages. The words were simple and clear. This territory belongs to humans. Do not enter without permission. Entry will be seen as an attack. Admiral Tsar of the Great Hegemony Fleet read the message and laughed. His forearms moved across his command console as he dismissed the warning from his screen. Behind him, his officers made clicking sounds that meant amusement in their language. These humans were nothing. They had only been in space for 300 years. The hegemony had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Commander Vexallen, Zir called to his second in command. How many ships do these humans have? Vexallen checked his reports. His large black eyes scanned the data quickly. Our spies say maybe 200 ships, Admiral. Most are cargo vessels and colony ships. They have perhaps 30 warships. Zactor's mandibles clicked together in what humans might call a smile. And we have 3,000 warships, Admiral, plus support vessels and troop carriers. The Admiral stood up from his command chair. His tall, insect-like body cast a long shadow under the bridge lights. Then we will brush them aside like dust. These human colonies have the rare metals we need. The Council will be pleased when we bring them this prize. On his main screen, Zactor could see the human colonies spread across several star systems. Intelligence reports showed rich mining operations on dozens of worlds. The humans had found good planets and asteroid fields full of the materials the hegemony needed for their growing empire. It would be easy to take these resources from such a young species, sir. His communications officer spoke up. We are receiving another transmission from the humans. Put it on screen. A human female appeared on the view screen. She wore a simple uniform with no fancy decorations. Her dark hair was pulled back and her brown eyes looked tired. The name tag on her uniform read Commander Shen. This is Commander Sarah Chen of Deep Space Station Sibaruz, she said. Her voice was calm and steady. You have crossed into human territory without permission. This is a restricted area. Please turn your ships around and leave immediately. Tsar stepped forward. I am Admiral Zactor of the Hegemony First Fleet. We claim this territory for our empire. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Sarah Chen looked at him for a long moment. She seemed to be thinking about something. Admiral, I need you to understand something. We put those warning beacons there for a reason. They are not just to protect us, they are to protect you. The Admiral and his officers made their clicking sounds. Again, protect us from what? Your tiny fleet. For making a mistake you cannot undo. Chen replied. Turn around now. This is your last chance. Sector cut the transmission with a wave of his hand. Foolish humans, they think they can scare us with words. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare the fleet for attack. Target their space stations first, then move to the colonies. Across the bridge, his officers began preparing for battle. Energy weapons powered up. Shield generators hummed to life. Massive hegemony fleet began moving forward like a dark cloud of death from her command center on Deep Space Station Sibaruz. Sarah Chen watched the alien fleet advance. Around her, human officers worked quietly at their stations. No one seemed panicked or afraid. They had been expecting this day for a long time. Ma'am, her tactical Officer reported the alien fleet has crossed the final boundary marker. All ships are now inside the protected zone. Chen nodded slowly. She had hoped it would not come to this. For 50 years, humans had been placing those warning beacons not because they were afraid of other species, but because they knew what would happen if someone ignored the warnings. She opened a communication channel to Earth Command. This is Subaru's station. We have a full invasion force in Sector 7, requesting authorization for Protocol 7. The reply came back immediately. Authorization granted. Execute Protocol 7. Chen took a deep breath. She had never hoped to use these words. All stations, all ships, all defensive systems. This is Commander Chen. Protocol 7 is now active. Repeat. Protocol 7 is active across human space. Things began to wake up. Things that had been waiting in the darkness between the stars. Things that had been built in secret over many decades. Things that the galaxy had never seen before. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Zar felt confident. His fleet was the largest military force in this part of the galaxy. His weapons could destroy planets. His shields could stop any attack these primitive humans might try. Admiral, his sensor officer called out, I am detecting some unusual energy readings. What kind of readings? I am not sure. Sir, the patterns do not match anything in our databases. Sector was not worried. Humans had only been in space for 3 centuries. What could they possibly have that the hegemony had not seen before? His first mistake was thinking that 3 centuries was a short time. His second mistake was thinking that humans were like other species the hegemony had conquered. His third and biggest mistake was ignoring the warnings. The hegemony fleet moved deeper into human space. Their sensors showed empty space ahead. No human ships came out to meet them. No defense platforms opened fire. It seemed like the humans were hiding or had run away. Sir, the communications officer reported, we are receiving a message from the human colonies. Another surrender offer. Zactor asked. No, sir. It is just 2 words repeated over and over. What are the words? The communications officer looked confused. The words are, we're sorry, Admiral. Zar did not understand what humans had to be sorry about. His fleet was winning. There was no resistance. Soon he would control all of these colonies and their valuable resources. But Sarah Chen knew what her people were sorry about. They were sorry that another species had chosen to cross the line that should never be crossed. They were sorry that the warnings had been ignored. Most of all, they were sorry about what was going to happen next. In the darkness of space, ancient systems came online. Weapons that had never been tested in real combat began to charge and scattered across dozens of star systems. Humans who had volunteered for a special duty began to move toward the alien fleet. These humans looked normal from the outside, but inside they had been changed, enhanced, made into something more than human and less than human at the same time. They had given up parts of their humanity to become perfect defenders of human space. The hegemony fleet continued forward, not knowing that they were being watched by things that could see through solid matter, move through dimensions that normal physics said should not exist, and strike from places where no attack should be possible. Admiral Zar looked at his tactical display and felt satisfied. In a few hours, the first human colony would be within range of his weapons. Soon after that he would send his victory message back to the Hegemony Council. He had no way of knowing that his fleet was already surrounded. The humans had let them come this far into their territory for a reason. Now the trap was ready to close. The first Hegemony ship to disappear was the scout vessel Blade of Victory. It had been checking an asteroid field for human defense platforms when it suddenly went quiet. Admiral Czar waited for a report, but none came. Communications, contact the Blade of Victory, he ordered. His communications officer tried several times. No response, Admiral, but sensors show the ship is still there. Send a recovery team. The recovery team found the Blade of Victory drifting silently among the asteroids. Its hull was undamaged. Its power systems were working normally, but when they boarded the ship they found something impossible. The crew was gone. All 43 members had simply vanished. Their uniforms were still at their posts, but the bodies inside them were missing. There were no signs of struggle, no damage to the ship, no evidence of what had happened. The crew had just stopped existing. This makes no sense, Vexelen said as he read the recovery team's report. Where did they go? Admiral Czar stared at the tactical display. Red dots marked his fleet positions. Green dots should have marked human ships, but there were none. The space around them appeared empty, yet somehow one of his vessels had been attacked. Sir, the sensor officer called out, I am detecting unusual readings again. Multiple contacts, but they appear and disappear randomly. What do you mean? The contacts show up for a few seconds then vanish completely. Our computers cannot track them. Zector's mandibles clicked with annoyance. Run full diagnostics on all sensors. These readings must be equipment errors, but the readings were not errors. Deep in space, things moved that the Hegemony had never encountered before. Captain Maria Torres had once been fully human. Now she was something else. Her body had been changed by human science and technology. Parts of her were still flesh and blood, but other parts were pure energy and quantum mechanics. She could phase through solid matter like a ghost. She could exist in several dimensions at once. She could appear inside an enemy ship, disable its crew without killing them, and vanish again before anyone knew she had been there. Torres moved through the Hegemony fleet like a shadow. She did not kill the alien crews because humans had decided long ago that death was not always necessary. Instead, she transported them to holding facilities that existed in folded space. The aliens would be safe there until this conflict ended. From her command post, Sarah Chen watched the reports coming in. More Hegemony ships were going silent, not destroyed, just emptied of their crews and left drifting. Status report, she requested. Her tactical officer checked his screens. 17 enemy vessels neutralized so far, 0 human casualties. The enhanced operatives are performing perfectly. Chen nodded, but she felt no satisfaction. Every human who had volunteered for the enhancement program had given up something important. They could no longer live normal lives. They could never have families. They existed in a space between human and something else entirely. Any response from the Hegemony fleet, she asked. They are trying to adapt. They have pulled their ships into tighter formations and are rotating their shields randomly. It will not help. Them, meanwhile, Admiral Zactor was learning that everything he knew about warfare was useless here. His weapons were designed to fight other ships. His tactics were based on 10,000 years of conventional space battles. But how do you fight an enemy that can walk through your hull like it was made of air, sir? His chief engineer reported, I have completed the analysis of the abandoned ships. There is no evidence of any known weapon being used, no energy discharge, no projectile damage, no chemical residue. The crews just stopped being there. Tsar felt something he had not experienced in many years, fear not for himself but for his entire species. If humans had weapons that could make people disappear without a trace, what hope did the hegemony have? All ships maintain formation, he ordered. Increase sensor sweeps to maximum range. We must find these phantom attackers. But the enhanced humans were not hiding in the traditional sense. Captain Torres and her fellow operatives existed in dimensions that hegemony sensors could not detect. They could watch the alien fleet, study their movements, and strike. At any moment, the next attack came from inside. Crew members on 3 different hegemony ships suddenly found themselves somewhere else entirely. They were standing in what looked like a comfortable waiting room with soft lighting and peaceful music. A human woman in a medical uniform approached them. Please do not be afraid, she said in perfect hegemony language. You're safe here. This facility exists outside normal space. You will be returned to your people when this conflict ends. The confused aliens looked around at their surroundings. There were other hegemony crew members there, all looking just as bewildered. Through large windows they could see stars, but they moved in patterns that made no sense. Back in normal space, Admiral Tsar realized his fleet was being taken apart piece by piece. His officers suggested different strategies, but nothing worked. They tried random flight patterns to avoid the attacks. Attacks continued. They tried grouping all ships together for mutual protection. Ships in the middle of the formation still lost their crews. Admiral Vexelen said quietly, perhaps we should consider retreating. Zactor's pride rebelled against the idea, but he was running out of options. Of his original 3,000 ships, over 300 were now empty hulks drifting in space. His crews were terrified and confused. Morale was falling rapidly. Sir, the communications officer announced, we are receiving another transmission from the humans. Sarah Chen appeared on the screen again. She looked as calm and tired as before, but there was something different in her eyes now, something that made Zetar's skin crawl. Admiral, you still have a chance to save your remaining crews, she said. Leave now, and no more of your people will be taken. Continue this attack and we will defend ourselves by any means necessary. What have you done with my missing crews? Tsar demanded. They are safe and unharmed. They are being held in secure facilities until you decide to end this invasion. We take no pleasure in this conflict, Admiral. We warned you what would happen if you entered our space. You cannot defeat the entire hegemony fleet with these ghost tricks. Sarah Chen was quiet for a moment. Admiral, you have seen only a tiny fraction of what we are capable of. The operatives currently neutralizing your ships are just our first line of defense. If you force us to escalate further, you will encounter systems that make our enhanced humans look primitive. She paused, letting that sink in. We spent 300 years preparing for this day. We hoped it would never come, but we were ready. Every human colony has defenses you cannot imagine. Every asteroid in our space can become a weapon. Every peaceful research station can transform into something that will give your people nightmares for generations. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Czar staring at a blank screen. Around him, his officers waited for orders, but he had no idea what to command. How do you fight an enemy that could reach inside your ships and take your crew without leaving any evidence they had ever been there? Captain Torres materialized briefly on the bridge of another hegemony vessel. The alien crew saw her for just a moment, a human figure that seemed to be made partly of light and partly of shadow. Then she was gone, and so were 15 members of the bridge crew. The remaining aliens stared at the empty stations where their crew mates had been sitting just seconds before. Some of them began to pray to their ancient gods. Others simply stood in shock, unable to process what they had witnessed. In the space between dimensions, Torres felt a familiar sadness. She had been human once. She had dreams and hopes and a family she loved. Now she was a weapon designed to protect humanity from threats too dangerous for normal soldiers to handle. Each time she used her abilities, she became a little less human and a little more something else. But she accepted this price because it meant other humans could live normal lives, safe from the horrors of galactic warfare. The hegemony fleet continued to shrink as more ships were emptied of their crews. Admiral Zier realized with growing horror that his mighty armada was being destroyed without a single shot being fired. Admiral Czar made a desperate decision. If these humans wanted to play games with phantom attackers, he would show them the true power of hegemony weapons. He ordered his remaining ships to target the nearest human colony and prepare for orbital bombardment. All vessels focus fire on Colony Delta 7, he commanded. Maximum power, turn that world into ash. 800 plasma cannons fired at once. The combined energy blast could have destroyed a small moon. Zector watched his tactical display as the massive wave of destruction raced toward the human colony. Then something impossible happened. The energy blast struck an invisible barrier around the planet and bounced back, not absorbed, not dispersed, bounced back like light hitting a mirror. The reflected plasma wave doubled in intensity and speed as it returned toward the hegemony fleet. Evasive maneuvers, Zector screamed, but it was too late. The reflected energy tore through his formation like a burning sword. Dozens of ships were destroyed instantly. Others were severely damaged, their hulls melted and twisted by their own weapons. In 30 seconds, Admiral Czar lost more vessels than he had in the previous 6 hours of ghost attacks on Colony Delta 7. Director James Walsh watched from his office window as the energy barrier around his world flickered briefly before disappearing again. The colonists below went about their daily work, unaware that their planet had just survived an attack that should have killed every living thing on its surface. Barrier holding at 96% efficiency, his chief engineer reported. The reflection amplifiers worked perfectly. Enemy energy returned at 203%. Original strength, Walsh nodded grimly. The colonists thought they were living on a peaceful farming world. They had no idea their planet was surrounded by the most advanced defensive technology humans had ever created. Every human colony looked normal on the surface, but underneath lay weapons and shields that could protect entire star systems. Admiral Zactor stared at his decimated fleet in disbelief. How did they do that? And GT, his science officer, one of the few who had survived the reflected energy blast, checked his instruments with shaking hands. Sir, the energy signatures suggest, though, humans have developed some form of quantum mirror technology. They can redirect kinetic and energy attacks back at the source with amplified force. What about projectile weapons, missiles, kinetic bombardment? Sir, with respect, I recommend we consider immediate withdrawal. These humans have clearly been preparing for large-scale warfare far longer than our intelligence suggested, but Zier was not ready to admit defeat. The hegemony had never lost a major battle in 5,000 years. He would not be the first admiral to retreat from a species they had dismissed as primitive. Launch the kinetic missiles, he ordered. Solid projectiles, they cannot reflect solid matter. 1,000 high-speed missiles launched from the remaining hegemony ships. Each one was designed to punch through planetary shields and create massive craters. Together they carried enough destructive force to crack a planet's crust. The missiles raced toward Colony Delta 7 at a significant fraction of light speed. Admiral Zactor smiled grimly. Let the humans try to reflect solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds, but the missiles never reached their target. As they approached the colony, they began to slow down as if space itself was becoming thicker. One by one they stopped completely and hung motionless in the void. Then slowly they began to turn around. Sir, the science officer whispered, they are reversing course. All missiles are now heading back toward us. The kinetic missiles that had been launched at the human colony returned to their launch points with twice their original velocity. The impacts against hegemony ships were devastating. Holes designed to withstand plasma fire were pierced like paper by their own projectiles. From Earth, Dr. Elizabeth Reeves observed the battle through quantum communication links. She sat in a comfortable chair in her laboratory, surrounded by equations and technical diagrams. To anyone looking at her, she seemed like a normal elderly scientist. But her work had made the current defense possible. Temporal distortion fields functioning normally, she reported to the military commanders. Watching the battle, local space-time manipulation holding steady. The invading projectiles experienced approximately 40 minutes of deceleration before achieving reverse trajectory. General Morrison, watching from Earth Command, shook his head in amazement. Dr. Reeves, sometimes I forget that you used to work on children's toys before you joined the defense project. She smiled. The principles are the same. General, children's toys need to be safe, reliable, and work the first time. Every time, military equipment requires the same qualities, just on a larger scale. Back in space, Admiral Czar realized his fleet was trapped. Every attack he launched came back stronger. His weapons were useless. His ships were being emptied by phantom attackers, and now he was learning that humans could manipulate space and time itself. Sir, Vexilin approached carefully. I have been analyzing the human defensive patterns. I believe they have been studying our weapons and tactics for much longer than we realized. What do you mean every countermeasure they use is specifically designed to defeat hegemony technology, our plasma frequency, our missile guidance systems, our shield harmonics? They know everything about how our equipment works. Admiral Czar felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. How long have they been watching us? Before Vexelen could answer, Sarah Chen appeared on the main view screen again. This time she was not alone. Standing beside her was a woman in civilian clothes who looked completely ordinary except for her eyes, which seemed to hold the weight of centuries. Admiral Czar Chen said, "I would like you to meet Dr. Elizabeth Reeves. She has a message for you." Dr. Reeves stepped forward. Her voice was gentle like a teacher explaining a difficult concept to a student. "Admiral, your species has a saying that translates roughly as the young tree bends in the storm while the old oak breaks. You see us as a young tree because we have only been in space for 3 centuries. She paused, letting him absorb her words. "But you are mistaken about what kind of tree we are. Humans spent 10,000 years learning to kill each other before we ever left our home world. We perfected warfare and then tried to leave it behind. We hoped we would never need those skills again." On her command screen, she brought up images of human history, battles, weapons, strategy spanning millennia of conflict. "We know every way intelligent beings can fight because we have tried them all. We know every weakness in military thinking because we have exploited them all. War is not something we learned from other species, Admiral. It is something we mastered long before we met you." Admiral Czar stared at the images flowing across his screen. Humans fighting with primitive weapons, then more advanced ones, then weapons that looked almost alien in their sophistication. The scale of conflict was staggering. His own species had fought wars, but nothing like what he was seeing. "When we entered space," Dr. Reeves continued, "we made a promise to ourselves. We would never be the aggressors. We would explore, learn, and try to build peaceful relationships with other species. But we also promised that if anyone forced war upon us, we would be ready." She gestured to something off-screen and new images appeared. Human colonies that looked peaceful and normal from above, but cross-sections showed vast underground complexes filled with weapons and defensive systems. For 300 years, we have been preparing for this day. Every human child learns basic military tactics alongside reading and mathematics. Every colony ship carries enough defensive equipment to protect a star system. Every research station can become a fortress within minutes. Admiral Zector's remaining ships detected new energy signatures all around them. What had appeared to be empty space was suddenly filled with human vessels decloaking. Not just a few dozen ships, but hundreds, sleek, dangerous-looking craft that moved with an efficiency that spoke of advanced technology and experienced crews. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Our intelligence said you had less than 50 combat vessels." Sarah Chen spoke up. "Your intelligence was looking at our regular fleet. These are our reserve forces. Every human colony has been building and maintaining its own defense ships for generations. What you are seeing now is just a fraction of our total military capability. The human ships that surrounded the hegemony fleet were unlike anything the aliens had encountered. They moved in perfect coordination, as if controlled by a Single mind, their weapons remained. Power down, but the threat was clear. Dr. Reeves continued her explanation. We also want you to understand something else, Admiral. The defensive systems you have encountered so far are not our most advanced technology. They are what we consider acceptable to use against a conventional invasion force. She paused, and her expression became very serious. If you force us to escalate beyond conventional defense, you will encounter systems that your species is not prepared to understand. We have weapons that exist outside normal physics. We have defenses that operate in dimensions your science does not know exist. We have capabilities that would be considered impossible by any known laws of nature. Admiral Czar looked around at his remaining officers. Many of them were staring at their instruments in shock. The readings they were getting from Thadmir Zetar made the only choice left to him. All ships full. Retreat, returned to hegemony space. Immediately, his remaining vessels, less than a third of the mighty armada that had entered human territory, turned away from the human colonies and began their journey toward the border. The Phantom attack stopped immediately. The human ships that had surrounded them allowed them to pass without interference, but as the hegemony fleet approached what should have been the edge of human space, Admiral Czar discovered something that filled him with a new kind of terror. Sir, his navigation officer reported, voice shaking. I am detecting human settlements in the Kepler system. That is impossible. Kepler is 300 light years from Earth, well outside known human territory. Confirmed, sir. Large-scale mining operations, orbital habitats and defensive platforms, all showing human energy signatures. Admiral Czar pulled up a galactic map on his main screen. The Kepler system was marked as unexplored territory, far from any known human colonies, yet his sensors clearly showed human activity there. Check the Vega system, he ordered. Human settlements there as well, sir. Also detecting human activity in the Wolf system, the Centauri cluster, and the navigation officer paused, his voice becoming even more frightened. Sir, I'm finding human presence in over 40 star systems that our charts show as empty space. The horrible truth began to dawn on Admiral Czar. The border his fleet had crossed was not the edge of human territory, it was just the beginning. Humanity had been quietly expanding across the galaxy for centuries, seeding space with colonies, research stations, and defensive outposts that appeared on no alien star charts. Sir, his communications officer announced, we are receiving a transmission from the Arcturus system. Arcturus, that system is supposed to be uninhabitable. The transmission is coming from Arcturus station, sir. It appears to be a human facility. The image that appeared on screen showed a massive space station orbiting a star that was supposed to be too hostile for any permanent structures. The station looked like it had been there for decades, maybe centuries. A human man in a simple work uniform appeared on the communication screen. This is Station Commander Rodriguez of Arcturus Deep Space Research. Welcome to human space, Admiral Czar. We have been monitoring your retreat and wanted to make sure you were not experiencing any navigation difficulties. Admiral Czar stared at the human in confusion. How long has that station been there? About 150 years, sir. We are primarily a research facility, but we also serve as a way station for deep space exploration. Mission, can we offer any assistance with your journey home? The Admiral cut the transmission and turned to his officers. How many human settlements are out there? How far does their territory really extend? His intelligence officer, working frantically at his console, looked up with a pale expression. Sir, based on what we are detecting, human presence extends across at least 200 star systems. Many of these installations appear to have been in place for over a century. Admiral Czar felt the universe shifting around him. Everything the hegemony thought they knew about humans was wrong. They were not a young limited species clinging to a few worlds around their home star. They were a vast established civilization that had been quietly expanding across the galaxy while other species focused on the small cluster of colonies around Earth. Sir Beeksalin approached with a data pad. I have been analyzing our star charts against the human settlements we are detecting. It appears that many systems we classified as neutral or unexplored have actually been under human influence for decades. What do you mean? The trade routes we use to supply our outer colonies pass through at least 12 systems with hidden human presence. The asteroid mining fields that supply our construction projects are located in areas humans have established monitoring stations, and Sir Vexelin hesitated. What? The supposedly neutral refueling depot at Titi that our fleet uses regularly appears to be a human-operated facility. We have been buying fuel and supplies from humans for the past 50 years without realizing it. Admiral Czar sat down heavily in his command chair. The hegemony military planners had based their invasion strategy on the assumption that humans controlled a small, easily conquered territory. Instead, they had attacked a species that had quietly integrated itself into the fabric of galactic civilization. As his fleet continued its retreat, more evidence of human presence became apparent. Long-range sensors detected human observation posts in nebula that were supposedly too dangerous to explore. Communication arrays hidden in asteroid fields, automated mining platforms, and systems that appeared empty on hegemony charts. Sir, the communications officer reported, we are receiving a priority message from Hegemony Command. Admiral Zactor accepted the communication, expecting orders or reinforcements. Instead, he saw the face of Supreme Commander Thexron, the highest military authority in the hegemony, but the Supreme Commander was not calling from a military facility. He was sitting in what appeared to be a comfortable office with unfamiliar decorations in the background. Admiral Zactor, the Supreme Commander, said, I am calling to inform you that your invasion has been called off. Sir, we are already in retreat. What is your location? I am currently on Hegemony Prime in my office. However, I am not alone. The camera pulled back to reveal a human woman sitting calmly in a chair beside the Supreme Commander's desk. She was elderly with gray hair and kind eyes, wearing a simple business suit. This is Ambassador Maria Santos of the Terran Diplomatic Corps, the Supreme Commander continued. His voice carried a tone that Admiral Czar had never heard before, fear mixed with respect. She arrived here 3 hours ago to discuss the current situation. Ambassador Santos smiled politely and spoke in perfect hegemony language. Good afternoon, Admiral Czar. I hope your crews are well. I wanted to assure you that the enhanced humans who removed your people from their ships were very careful to cause no harm. Admiral Zetar stared at the screen in shock. A human diplomat was sitting in the most secure military facility in hegemony space, talking casually with the Supreme Commander as if she belonged there. How did you get to Hegemony Prime? He asked. I took the regular diplomatic transport, she replied, the same ships that have been running scheduled routes between Earth and your home system for the past 30 years. I was actually supposed to visit last month, but my schedule was quite busy. Supreme Commander the Zeron spoke up. Admiral, it appears that our intelligence services have made some significant errors in their assessment of human capabilities and territorial extent. Ambassador Santos opened a briefcase and pulled out what appeared to be a standard diplomatic data pad. I have brought some updated star charts that might help clarify the current situation. These show the actual extent of human territory and influence. She activated the data pad, and a holographic map of the galaxy appeared above the desk. Admiral Zar watched in horror as vast sections of space lit up in blue, indicating human presence. The territory was not centered around Earth as expected, but spread across hundreds of star systems in a complex web of colonies, outposts, and research stations. As you can see, Ambassador Santos explained, human civilization extends considerably farther than your charts indicated. We have been quietly establishing a presence in many systems over the past 3 centuries, always being careful not to interfere with other species' territorial claims. Admiral Zier noticed something else on the map that made his blood run cold. Several systems marked as major hegemony military bases were surrounded by human installations, not openly hostile but positioned to observe everything that happened in those regions. You have been watching us, he realized. We have been watching everyone, Ambassador Santos admitted. When you enter a galaxy full of unknown species, it is wise to learn as much as possible about your neighbors. We have maintained observation posts near most major civilizations for over a century. Supreme Commander Thexan looked uncomfortable. Ambassador Santos has informed me that human diplomatic missions have been operating throughout hegemony space for decades. Apparently, we have been interacting with human representatives regularly without realizing their true identity. Many of the independent traders and neutral diplomats your people deal with are actually human agents, Santos explained. We found it easier to conduct business and gather information if we did not advertise our species' identity. Most aliens seem to have strong preconceptions about humans that interfere with normal diplomatic relations. Admiral Zar realized that the hegemony had not just attacked a small human territory. They had attacked a species that had been quietly studying them for generations, learning their strengths and weaknesses, mapping their trade routes and military installations. How many of you are there? He asked. Ambassador Santos consulted her data pad. Current human population across all star systems is approximately 47 billion individuals spread across 412 worlds and space habitats. The number hit Admiral Zactor like a physical blow. The hegemony's intel. 3 days later, Admiral Zar stood in the main conference room on Hegemony Prime. Around the table sat the most powerful leaders in hegemony space, but they all looked small and uncertain compared to the humans who had joined them for this meeting. Ambassador Maria Santos sat at the head of the table as if she belonged there. Beside her was Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, the scientist who had explained human military doctrine during the conflict. Several other humans in civilian clothing occupied chairs that had been hastily added to accommodate the unexpected diplomatic mission. Supreme Commander Thexron called the meeting to order. We are here to discuss the terms of the new relationship between the hegemony and the Terra Confederation. Admiral Czar noticed that none of the humans looked angry or threatening. They seemed genuinely interested in finding a peaceful solution, which somehow made the situation more unsettling. He had expected conquerors demanding tribute and territory. Instead, he was facing people who acted like concerned neighbors trying to solve a community problem. Ambassador Santos opened a simple folder and pulled out a few sheets of paper. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Before we discuss terms, I want to make sure everyone understands the current situation. She activated a holographic projector in the center of the table. The galaxy appeared above them with different colors showing various territorial boundaries. The blue areas represent confirmed human presence. The red areas show hegemony territory. As you can see, there is considerable overlap. Admiral Czar studied the map and felt his stomach sink. Human installations were scattered throughout what the hegemony considered their exclusive territory. Worse, many of the most important hegemony systems were completely surrounded by human outposts. For the past century, Santos continued, human and hegemony citizens have been conducting business together on a daily basis. Your people buy supplies from our trading posts. Your ships refuel at our stations. Your diplomats stay at our hotels when they travel. Most of this interaction has been peaceful and profitable for both sides. Dr. Reeves spoke up. We estimate that approximately 30% of the hegemony's deep space logistics are currently dependent on human-operated facilities. Cutting off that relationship would cause serious supply problems for your outer colonies. Supreme Commander Thexron looked around the table at his fellow officers. What exactly are you proposing? Ambassador Santos smiled. We are proposing that we continue exactly what we have been doing for the past century. The only difference is that now you know who you have been dealing with. She pulled out another document. These are the formal terms. First, the hegemony will permanently end all aggressive military actions against any human territory or installation. Second, current trade relationships will continue under formal agreements rather than unofficial arrangements. Third, human observation post and hegemony space will be officially recognized as diplomatic facilities. Admiral Czar found his voice. What about our missing crews? What about the ships you disabled? All crew members will be returned unharmed within the next 48 hours, Santos replied. They are currently being held in temporal stasis facilities, so no time will have passed for them. As far as your people are concerned, they will have been unconscious for a few minutes, and the ships will be repaired and returned to full operational status. Our engineering teams are already working on the damaged vessels. Supreme Commander Thexon looked confused. I do not understand. You defeated our invasion fleet. You could demand Tribute, territory, anything you wanted. Why are you offering such generous terms? Dr. Reeves answered, because we never wanted to be conquerors. We wanted to be left alone to explore the galaxy and build peaceful relationships with other species. You forced us to reveal capabilities we hoped we would never need to use. She gestured to the holographic map. Every blue dot on this display represents humans who chose to live far from Earth, often in dangerous or difficult conditions because they believed the galaxy was big enough for all species to find their place. We do not want to rule over others, we just want to make sure no one tries to rule over us. Ambassador Santos leaned forward. However, we do have some additional requirements that extend beyond the hegemony. What kind of requirements? Santos activated her date pad and the galactic map changed to show several other species' territories. Some areas began flashing red. Our intelligence networks have identified 17 other civilizations that are currently planning aggressive actions against their neighbors. These range from small border disputes to large-scale invasion plans. She paused to let that information sink in. As part of our agreement, the hegemony will join a new organization we are establishing called the Galactic Peace Enforcement Council. Any species that launches unprovoked attacks against another civilization will face immediate intervention. Admiral Zector realized what the humans were really proposing. You want to become the police force for the entire galaxy. We want to prevent unnecessary wars. Dr. Reeves corrected. We have seen what happens when species are allowed to attack each other without consequences. It leads to escalating conflicts that eventually threaten everyone. Santos brought up new images showing various alien civilizations. We have been monitoring galactic politics for over a century. We know which species are planning invasions, which governments are developing weapons of mass destruction, and which trade disputes are about to become shooting wars. She pointed to specific regions on the map. The Karthak Empire is planning to invade 6 neighboring systems next year. The Stellar Collective is developing biological weapons designed to eliminate entire species. The Trade Federation is about to start a war over mining rights that could destabilize this entire region of the galaxy. Supreme Commander Thexron stared at the information in shock. How do you know all of this? Because we have been watching and listening for a very long time, Santos replied. Human intelligence agents have been operating throughout the galaxy for decades. We know more about most civilizations than they know about themselves. Admiral Zar felt a chill as he realized the true scope of human capabilities. You could have prevented our invasion before it started. Yes, we could have, Dr. Reeves admitted, but we hoped you would listen to the warnings and turn back. We always prefer diplomatic solutions to military ones. Santos stood up and walked to the holographic display. The galaxy is entering a dangerous period. Populations are growing, resources are becoming scarce, and old territorial disputes are escalating into major conflicts. Without some form of stabilizing influence, we are looking at centuries of warfare that could destroy entire civilizations. She turned to face the hegemony leaders. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to preserve it. The Peace Enforcement Council will have one simple mission: prevent aggressive wars before they start. Species that attack Others without justification will face immediate intervention designed to stop the conflict with minimum casualties. Admiral Zactor asked the question that was troubling him most: what if we refuse? Ambassador Santos returned to her seat and looked at him with sad eyes. Then you will discover that the defensive systems you encountered during your invasion were just our basic peacekeeping tools. We have weapons and capabilities that we hope never to reveal, but we will use them if necessary to prevent galactic warfare. She opened her briefcase again and pulled out a small device that looked like a simple communication unit. This contains detailed information about human military capabilities that go beyond what you experienced. I recommend that you review this data before making your decision. Supreme Commander Thexron accepted the device with trembling hands. How long do we have to decide? The formal agreement needs to be signed within 30 days, Santos replied, but I should mention that we are holding similar meetings with the leaders of 47 other civilizations this week. The Peace Enforcement Council will be established. Whether or not the hegemony chooses to participate, the meeting concluded with the hegemony leaders agreeing to consider the human proposal. As the humans prepared to leave, Admiral Czar approached Ambassador Santos privately. Why are you really doing this? He asked. What do humans gain from policing the galaxy? Santos looked at him thoughtfully. Admiral, have you ever had children? Yes, I have offspring. Then you understand the feeling of wanting to protect something precious, even when that protection requires difficult sacrifices. She gestured toward a window that showed the stars beyond. We see the galaxy as a place full of potential. Thousands of species, each with unique knowledge and perspectives. Each civilization could contribute something valuable to the whole. She paused, choosing her words carefully. But we also know that one major galactic war could destroy everything. We have seen what happens when intelligent species turn their full technological capabilities toward destroying each other. We will not allow that to happen. Admiral Czar watched as the human delegation departed in ships that seemed to materialize from nowhere and disappear just as mysteriously as their vessels vanished into whatever dimension they used for faster-than-light travel. He realized that the galaxy had changed forever. The age of unrestricted territorial expansion was over.